I can't decide what's more of a disaster, this movie or the actual apocalypse. On this episode of Moving Panels, we discuss X-Men Apocalypse. Welcome to Moving Panels, the podcast where we discuss movies and TV shows based on, inspired by, and adapted from the world of comic books. I'm your host, Laramy Wells, and joining me today in the co-host chair are two of my horsemen. First up, some might call him the Professor X of our panel. His ability to dive deep into the lore of X-Men is unmatched. From Totally Rad Christmas, please welcome Mr. Gerry D.
Hey, how's it going? That's some a lot of pressure you put on me right there, right out the gate. But okay.
Hey, but look,
I'll do what I can. Though. I'll do what I can.
I'm a DC guy, so if someone tells me they know Marvel stuff, I'm like, you know more than I do.
Nice.
Like, we don't have to have a conversation yet. I know you know more than I do.
I gotcha.
And next up, he is the Deadpool of our group, armed with a quip for every situation and a humor as sharp as Wolverine's claws. It's the dapper Southern gent, Blake Fowler.
Laramy, Gerry may have the knowledge of Professor Xavier, but I certainly have the haircut. So, you know,
I'm getting there. My hairline used
really
to be down
Professor?
Here. It's slowly moving back like 2 inches. So.
Look, mine ran away a long time ago. Okay.
And of course, this is the movie where we get him going bald.
You lose it. You know, just a warning out there to every male: when you're 22 and it's hot during the summer, don't shave your head. It's not going to grow back. Okay, it's over from there.
All right, well, let's jump into it because this is going to be, I think, one really fun conversation based off of the way we were talking before we started recording. So this movie, we're just going to jump straight into it. This movie was released May 27th of 2016. I'll let Blake, you tell us first. How did you first see it?
I saw it in theaters. Yeah,
Awesome.
I went with some friends, caught it in theaters. I'm not a huge Marvel guy, as those who listen to the podcast will know, but I do enjoy the X-Men. I enjoy Wolverine. I wouldn't call myself a buff, but I do enjoy the X-Men movies. And I'm just gonna go ahead to play off of your intro, Laramy. This is my favorite X-Men film. So there's that. I should have brought Elle Woods to help me defend this today. I did not, but I will do my best to uphold the honor that is X-Men Apocalypse.
We will be discussing that as we go along.
Sure we will. I am sure we will.
Gerry, how about you?
So I did not see it in theaters. I wanted to, but I was believe I was selling insurance at the time, and I just couldn't make my schedule work. So I caught it when it was on demand, and that was the last time I saw it until I saw it again for this for this podcast. Now, I am a Marvel guy. I love the X-Men. They're probably my all-time favorite comic book, aside from Batman. And I was very, very excited after Days of Future Past. I thought, oh, they've got this is going to be really cool.
Yep.
And then,
So
the Foxman universe is like so hit or miss for me. It's like one's great, one's terrible. One's great, one's terrible. It's very Star Trek, you know. So I just
but it's not as consistent as Star Trek.
Exactly.
Where you can say the even numbers are good, the odd numbers are bad.
It's a mess. I can concede that it is a mess, especially the X-Men timeline. Nothing makes sense.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
No,
there's a ton of suspension.
Help.
Yeah, there's a ton of suspension of disbelief. You know, you're seeing characters age and de-age and re-age and jumps in time. So I get that. I get that argument. We'll get into my defense of it in just a bit.
And we'll discuss some of the timeline stuff because I can't help but do it.
Right.
I mean, we got it, right?
Obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you go all the way back to, I think it was episode 3 when we did Days of Future Past. Mm-hmm. I was already talking about all the confusion that there was, because that was where they actually said, hey, you know, the 3 other X-Men movies, they're connected to these X-Men movies. And I went, as soon as you did that, my mind exploded.
For real. It just doesn't check out.
Because it shouldn't work.
The math ain't mathin'. No, it's not.
I'm pretty sure I saw it in theaters too. And me watching it for the podcast was maybe my second time. It could have been my third time. And that is how memorable this movie is to me. So I'm not 100% sure how many times, but I know it's only been 2 or 3 because this is not Days of Future Past. I would probably Like, I know now with streaming and all that, no one says, hey, if I was flipping through the channels, I'd stop and watch it.
Right.
But Days of Future Past is probably one that if I was flipping through the channels, I'd stop and watch it. Apocalypse, I would pause, go, oh, that's Apocalypse, and then keep going.
Okay.
That's
I thought I almost had you there, Laramy, that you were going to say I would just watch it in the background at least, like just have it on playing.
No, I mean, it's not a terrible movie, but it's not, at least to me, but it's not like a great movie either. It's just, it's very, for me, it's very mediocre, and so it's forgettable because of that. Like, if it was at least bad, I think I would have remembered it a lot more, and I would have enjoyed it a lot more. Like Wolverine, X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Oh, God.
It's a terrible, terrible movie.
Awful.
But
so
like,
bad.
At least you can enjoy it. You can laugh at it. Here, I think it took itself too seriously, which, I mean, X-Men, yes, they're very serious. They fight bigotry and racism and all sorts of things. But also, you have guys like Nightcrawler, who's very happy-go-lucky. And, there's like a lightness there that I feel the movies didn't quite fully grasp as well. So
let's get into that. So before we just keep talking about ultimately what our final decisions are,
jumping the shark a little bit here.
Yeah. Let's take a step back.
Let's go ahead and let's pick through the characters, because there are a lot of them.
Right.
In this movie. We'll start off with Apocalypse, and we'll talk about Apocalypse a little bit more in detail since this is the movie that features him.
Mm-hmm.
Apocalypse, starring Oscar Isaac. He played Poe in Star Wars and then agreed to do this movie.
Which I get. That's a good move for him. It's X-Men. They're huge.
Was it?
Well, no. I mean, like in theory, on paper.
Yeah. He was about to like be big time in all kinds of franchises. Like, right. He was across the board.
And then he played Apocalypse,
and it ended his career. No, I'm just kidding. No, he's still.
Yeah. Luckily, he got to do Moon Knight.
He got to do Moon Knight, which is good. So that redeemed him.
He's now in other big movies. I mean,
I think the most egregious thing for me about this movie is Apocalypse's look. Okay,
so same here. I know that contradicts me saying I like it, that he's the main villain, but it's a bad look. Okay,
it really is. Yeah, like I've and I hate to say this because it sounds terrible, but I've seen cosplay done Apocalypse way better.
Yeah,
because Apocalypse, he's like this imposing figure. He's menacing.
And he's a technopath or whatever the word is.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he's supposed to have all this technology, but
he's like standing eye to eye with the Storm. I'm like, he's supposed to be this like looming
tower
presence.
So, yeah, exactly.
So Oscar Isaac actually wore high heel boots to try to look bigger.
The old Tom Cruise plan there.
Oh no!
Although the suit was 40 pounds.
God.
It looked like it. It looked like it was super heavy too. Yeah.
And he said he was very uncomfortable and hot.
Well, apparently so were the both of y'all watching it. So whatever. Uncomfortable, not hot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, nowadays, like with Black Panther, they have that coolant system inside the suit, and I don't think they did for him. I think it was just a big old piece of metal all over. Which it is kind of hard because Apocalypse got all his technology from the Celestials. Like that's how he, how he advanced himself and his body. And we don't have the Celestials in this X-Men universe, with Fox.
No.
So they could have at least
that would
something.
Be a bad movie that would come later with the Eternals.
Exactly right. But like they could have found a way to address some of that technological aspects, and I think it could have been. I don't know, intriguing to watch, at least, if nothing else.
Yeah, what did you think about the fact that they introduce him in ancient Egypt and then they just bury him alive until 2016?
I thought cool in concept, and but I don't think the execution was that great. And it's not the fault of the script in this case. I actually enjoyed that opening sequence. I think it's the CGI that just did it dirty. It was hard to look at some of his Four Horsemen. I cannot stand terrible CGI. It just takes me out of anything. And so for me, I thought it was a great idea. Because it is kind of true to his comic book counterpart. He was an ancient Egyptian. He was like the first mutant. Although I don't know what his powers are in this movie. They really kind of mess with his powers a lot.
It's like a soup of powers. He just does all kinds of,
Yeah, it's like, let's just give him everything and he can absorb whatever power of a body he inhabits, which isn't from the comics. But
yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I made note of that. I couldn't find anything of where I found one issue. Let me look through my notes real quick because I know. Season 5, episode 10 of X-Men the Animated Series. The episode is called "The Fifth Horseman," and Apocalypse actually tries to body swap with Jubilee.
That is,
I don't know about that.
I don't like the way that tastes, Laramy. I don't like that one.
You got to splice in Robert Downey Jr. saying, "Not a great plan."
Not a great. What was it? Dodgeball. Let's see how it works out for him, Cotton.
That's right. Yeah, that's just not.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So when Apocalypse first debuted in X Factor, because he was an X Factor villain,
X Factor, the original X-Men,
yeah. So for Blake, if Blake doesn't know this,
the
original,
yep.
So X Factor was actually the original 5 members of X-Men.
Okay.
Cyclops, Jean Grey, Beast, Iceman, and Angel.
Gotcha.
Right.
And they became X Factor, who were they went undercover, like their secret identity was X Factor was a group that tried to rid the world of mutants.
Okay.
But what they were actually trying to do were find the mutants so that they could train them.
Mm-hmm. Little double agent stuff.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the government would kind of step in and work with them a little bit more because they were supposedly quote unquote mutant hunters,
Yeah.
Okay.
And they didn't know that they were mutants. They
just thought they were super powered beings because those exist as well.
So
in
like
the Marvel comics. So
you've got what is it? Scott Summers here, like in the middle of high school class in the movie, discovers his powers. Is that the prototypical thing? Like puberty hits and like
puberty,
I've got powers
and then
all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally, like with Nightcrawler, you're born already.
Right. I would assume.
Was,
I would assume at that point in time. You're
exactly.
A
I think
you got something going on. Yeah.
Well, and that was the case with Apocalypse too. Like he was born blue.
He was blue as well. Something about blue. All the mutants are blue.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, it just is what it is. But no, I want to piggyback real quick off kind of what Gerry was saying with the opening scene there. So being a history nerd, I love ancient Egypt, all the mythology, the lore. I loved the idea, like Gerry, executions off, CGI's off. So if somebody asked me like, how would you do ancient Egypt in the movies? Stargate for me is like how you do ancient Egypt. If they'd have gone that route and tried a little bit of that, I would have been okay. But yeah, even that CGI Stargate is probably better than a lot what's going on.
I did like
in Apocalypse. So yeah, I agree completely. Great idea. Probably poor execution. Not enough to take me out of the movie per se, but could have been done a little better.
But I thought that was actually kind of a cool intro. You had this all powerful guy, and then like all of a sudden, he's buried. I mean, it's nowadays it's kind of cliche,
it's
but
tropey, yeah,
exactly. But he's buried, and then he's going to be resurrected later. So,
yep.
But the fact that it started in ancient Egypt, I thought was cool, and I gave it points.
No, that was cool.
Yeah.
Do you think it worked because they teased it at the end of Days of Future Past?
Yes. Yeah, they did.
I think it did a good job of leading into that. Again, I'm not the all knowing Professor Xavier of the X-Men here on the panel, but I think it did. I think it did well. I had no issues.
No, I mean I was excited for it. Like I said, I wanted to see it in the theaters. I just couldn't make scheduling was just my issue there because I was working like ridiculous hours. But I liked it enough. That teaser. I liked it enough that I was excited to see it.
So let's talk about Apocalypse a little bit more. Like I said, he debuted in X Factor. It was X Factor number 5 technically, but he's only in the last panel.
Yeah.
And this was back in 1986. He fully appears in the next issue, number 6. I have read both of those issues. In that last panel on 5, I didn't realize, I wouldn't have known it was Apocalypse unless you tell me it's Apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
Because he looks different from that panel than in the very next issue.
You kind of wonder if maybe they weren't satisfied fully with their initial design, Yeah.
And then of course his main power seems to be shape-shifting, like he's Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, basically. He can
yeah.
control every molecule in his body. And so he uses it most of the time to form like blunt force weapons or piercing weapons, things like that. He can, generate mass, and so he can grow bigger, things of that nature. But like once he kind of merged with that celestial armor, essentially, then he had like energy projection and manipulation, a little bit like you were saying of the technopathy, things like that as well. And so his powers were just greatly enhanced. But originally, especially when in that ancient Egyptian period, it was just like you said, Mr. Fantastic, like Plastic Man,
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looked like when you read through those comics. Because there's even one part where I want to say maybe it's Scott goes to blast him and he just makes a big hole in the middle of himself for the blast to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So, not being super familiar with the comics, is Apocalypse born out of the X-Men had run out of villains at this point? Like they needed somebody like all powerful to fight?
So yes and no. So what happened was they had been setting up kind of a long-term storyline. There was this group, this team of supervillains called the Alliance. And they were highly implying that there was somebody in charge
overseeing
of them.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the original writer had planned on it being this bottom tier level villain, the Owl, who would
Leland
Owlsley. Yeah.
Okay.
Who would become he's more known as like a Spider-Man Daredevil. Like street level villain.
Okay.
Yeah. But he was going to be it. Luckily, that didn't happen.
Someone stepped in and was like, no, this is anticlimactic as it gets right here.
He was fired. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry, was it Louise
Simonson? Yeah, Simonson.
Simonson, yeah.
Wheezy.
Who said, we want a, Dr. Doom, Magneto, the big level. We would need to create something new.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Apocalypse came from.
I can see how that would go down. Like the guy comes in and they're like, look, we've got this idea. It's going to be the Owl. And the guy, they're at the table and they go, who? And he's like, exactly. That's it. That's the idea. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Could you imagine us talking about
the
on
Owl?
This episode of Moving Panels, we're discussing X-Men. Owl.
The Owl. X-Men Owl. Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah. That's terrible.
Okay. That might not have been a movie I'd wanted to watch. Okay.
But like I said, he's supposed to be the world's first mutant. He was born, and again, he was blue, and the tribe rejected him and actually left him out in the desert to die. He was then found by a group of nomads who were the ones who taught him about survival of the fittest. That only the strong survive, which they play off in this movie. And then he's eventually teamed up, or he's mentored by Rama Tut, a.k.a. Kang the Conqueror. Yeah.
I do know that much. Yeah.
So there you have it. There's Apocalypse. Let's go through the other characters, and I'll hit them in a list, and then we can come back and talk about who we want to talk about.
Okay.
So, of course, returning, we have James McAvoy as Charles Xavier, Eric Lensher, or Magneto, played by Michael Fassbender, Raven, Mystique, played by Jennifer Lawrence, Hank McCoy, Beast, and now Lex Luthor, Nicholas Hoult, Moira McTaggart, played by Rose Byrne, Peter Maximoff, Quicksilver, Evan Peters, and then our new group, we've got Jean Grey, Sophie Turner, Scott Summers, played by Ty Sheridan, Alex Summers returns from First Class,
right.
Lucas Till. We get Nightcrawler, played by Cody Smith McPhee, Angel, Ben Hardy. We are introduced finally to Storm, Aurora Monroe, played by Alexandra Shipp. Psylocke, played by Olivia Munn. Then we get a return of the young William Stryker, Josh Hellman, which that's another one of those timeline things that I hate.
Absolutely.
Right. Doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, his age makes no sense.
None whatsoever. That's probably the most confusing part of the movie for me, if I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah. And then I will just go ahead and throw in, we do get a cameo, as we should from an X-Men movie, of Wolverine, played by Hugh Jackman. So we can talk about whoever we want to talk about, but I'll go ahead and ask. So out of all these people, who do you want to see again, and who do you wish would disintegrate into dust?
Oh, man. Okay, so my favorite X-Man, I guess, of all time is Cyclops. He's a super
Really?
super compelling character. He started off as like a loner, kind of a brooding, very by the book guy. After he merged with Apocalypse in the late '90s, early 2000s storyline, the 12, he became more militant. He actually helped save the mutant race essentially. Once after the decimation of M Day. I mean, he was so in love with with Jean Grey that he married her clone after he thought she was dead. And then when she was found alive, now it's not a great look on him, but he left his clone to go be with the real thing because that's how much he loved the real thing.
Yep.
Just very, very interesting guy and great tactician, super leader. And the movies did him crazy dirty. They've never gotten him right in any of the movies at all. But now, having said that he's my favorite character, I'm not a super huge fan of Ty Sheridan's portrayal of him. I don't know what it is, but on the other hand, I can't really pinpoint anything about James Marsden that really stands out to me as a good portrayal of Cyclops either. So I'm okay with it. But out of the list that you said, I think the one that I was most excited to see and would like to see again was Michael Fassbender as Magneto. I thought he was fantastic.
I will say, Fassbender did a really good job as Magneto, and I will say it is one of my favorite parts of this movie. His story at the beginning. Yep. I do. Part of me kind of wishes maybe they had used him and done that X-Men Origins Magneto movie that they had planned on doing. So I don't know, but I do want to ask you about Cyclops though.
Okay.
So he gets his powers, and of course, closing his eyes works. What kind of fabric was that they wrapped around his head?
It's definitely not ruby quartz, that's for sure.
Yeah. Why was that a thing? Because
I think maybe he just had his eyes closed underneath.
Yeah, did he have his eyes closed? And they were just like, if you open them, we hope this cloth will stop it.
It's a reminder, it's like,
were they thinking the fabric was going to stop it?
You just split a 200-year-old oak tree in half, but this cloth. These gauze will they've been blessed by the hands of Charles Xavier, and they will protect you from
that's another thing that's a little bit different. So he had his powers relatively early, and he couldn't control them early on because of an accident that he was in. Now, typically in every universe except this movie universe and the Ultimate Universe, Scott's the older brother, not Havoc. So I thought that was a kind of a different twist and take on it as well. But I don't know. That's a good point.
So my other thing about Scott is, now you might know this. I don't know this. Can he see when the blast is going off?
I mean, it's never actually specified, but he can angle things and he can bounce his beams off certain things. So I assume he can. Like he's got part of his.
Right. So then, why did he have such a problem with it when he takes off the blindfold?
Is it so forceful that it's hard to control where he's angling? I guess. What if he doesn't know how to control it, so to speak?
Well, I mean, he can't. He's got in the comics, he and his brother were pushed out of a plane by their father. The plane was crashing, and so he strapped him to a parachute, threw him out the plane. And Scott hit his head hard enough that it actually gave him a little bit permanent brain damage, and that's why he cannot control his powers. So, of course, none of that's explained here. But
no,
I think it is just too powerful. I mean, he has in his visor, he has a little control on his glove button that can change the visor opening to see how much force essentially can come out of there. So cool. I think it's just go time all the time with me.
Just full bore 24/7.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't want to spend a lot of time on Cyclops, but that's another thing that
too late.
That's another thing that has always, because I get when he's wearing the visor, because the visor is kind of closed up,
right?
But when he's wearing the sunglasses, I'm like,
how does it not escape through the sides?
How is it not escaping from the sides?
Well, in the movie, he's got the Ray-Bans have a little extra panel on the side, so it can't go out sideways. But over the top or underneath, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, on X-Men the Animated Series, he was always wearing a pair of aviators.
Yeah, just like aviators. Yeah.
It was the 90s.
Yeah. Now, last thing we'll talk about with Cyclops here is I got to go into timeline stuff.
Oh yeah,
he was in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
He was, yeah. He sure was.
So Jerry, make that make sense.
I can't, man. I'm gonna say it's an alternate dimension.
Oh, God.
We're in a multiverse.
Great answer.
It's a multiverse, so that's there you go. No, honestly, I have no idea. It doesn't add up. He's also played by a different actor, so that doesn't add up as well.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, his brother is like 20 years older than him, basically.
It's wild, right? No, it makes no sense.
I mean, Cyclops' dad. I mean, he he could get it, I guess.
Just out here doing it every day, just making it happen. Doesn't matter.
Well,
time
he's
or
a
place.
space pirate, so
okay. So I want to just real quick. I know we're trying to wrap up Cyclops here, but I can't. Mm-hmm. He marries Jean Grey's clone.
Yes.
And then leaves the clone for the real Jean Grey.
For the real Jean,
and has a
kid.
Baby.
Yeah, he has.
Yeah.
He has
Cable.
a
with which
Cable,
one?
The clone.
With the
clone. Yeah, Cable is the son. Yeah, okay. I know.
Right.
I'm sorry. All right.
Yes.
So Freud would have so much to say about all of that. That is some of the most Greek mythology, Olympians type stuff I have ever heard.
Well, and then he marries Jean later on. So
yeah.
And both of them are thrown into the future where they actually raise Cable in the future.
Yeah, secretly. Cable doesn't.
I'm being thrown into the future right now.
Yeah. This is where we're getting into, which we'll talk about later in the show. This is where we're getting into the Age of Apocalypse.
Right.
And
because Apocalypse is like the ruler of that. Mm-hmm.
Well, but what leads into it, they reveal to Cable that they were his adopted parents, and Cable goes, "Yeah, I knew the whole time."
Well, come on, I mean, how did he not? Right?
Yeah, it's like no, duh, guys.
Slim and red.
Yeah. Okay. All right, I got you. All right. Yeah. All right. Okay. I just wanted to clarify before we moved on anywhere.
Yeah.
I totally forgot. Did you say who you would?
I didn't, but I know if you just didn't care about my opinions anymore. So I like the movie. So you're like, no, we're not getting
discount.
No. I'm talking about did Jerry say which one he wanted to get rid of?
Oh no, I didn't.
Oh no,
that.
Okay.
Yeah. Who could you have done without?
Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, wow.
I found her performance.
Hot take.
Lackluster compared to her other performances.
Considering she's supposed to be the star of these movies.
Well, I mean, in First Class, she had a very compelling arc. In Days of Future Past, I thought she did great, but here she just seemed like she was phoning it in, and
she's ready. She was ready to be done.
And then in the next movie,
she really does.
Yep.
Yeah, she really does.
She's like,
all right, Blake, how about you?
Who would I like to see more of? It's probably Michael Fassbender, Magneto. I think that's easy for everybody to say. Mm-hmm. His acting in all the X-Men films that he's in, I would say, is far better than it should be.
I agree.
Yeah. Like it shouldn't be that. I shouldn't feel the complex set of emotions that I feel for his character throughout the course of a comic book movie. But he does great. I would love for him to have gotten his own solo film. Would have been fantastic. Who could I do without? Jean Grey's kind of whiny. Like, I kind of...
Yeah.
Not as whiny as Cyclops.
Not as whiny as Cyclops, but she's like, "Oh, I don't want to use my powers." I'm like, no, unleash the beast, okay? Let's do this. It shouldn't take Charles.
The beast, that's Hank.
Yeah, well, he is unleashed also, but it shouldn't take Charles Xavier reiterating the mantra of "let go" 4 times in your vision to get you to realize your full power. So I don't know. I could have done with a more assertive form of her, or just not at all.
Yeah, I will say, you're talking about the special effects earlier. When she actually walks off the floor, at the end, that is a pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome
because
I did
seamless.
Like that. Yeah,
it was just seamless.
Yep,
that she just walks straight into
really
the air.
Good. Credit where credit is due. So there you go.
So I'll change it up. I won't say Magneto, even though I want to.
You should. You should do it.
No, I'll say Quicksilver. I mean, who doesn't want more of Evan Peters' Quicksilver?
One of, if not the best scenes in a comic book movie ever. All right, I'm just going to say that now. Yeah, hands down.
That scene, his scene stole the movie in Days of Future Past. His scene is one of the. I will say that scene I remembered.
Yep.
So
yeah, his two
That's
scenes,
true. Yeah,
so good. So I agree. Good deal.
Yeah,
and then I could do without Psylocke.
Yeah, I could have gone there.
She was pretty useless in this film.
Yeah. So yeah, Olivia Munn looked the part.
100%, dead on.
But that was it. There was no indication that Psylocke was psychic, or not psychic, but a telepath.
Right.
Which I'm like, wait, because there was a couple of moments where I was like, this could be different if they were actually using the fact that Psylocke should be a telepath. But yeah, it was look alone, and then the way they ended with her, where she's the only one that doesn't decide to go good, and she kind of just fades away, doing that awkward looking back.
No,
I'm going to look at you. Now I'm going to walk away.
No one sees me, right?
Yeah. Although
it felt like a Monty Python sketch, right?
Yeah. They cut it as if Storm sees her.
Yeah.
And just goes, oh, well.
Yeah, a couple people's like, oh, I want you to see me, but I don't look at me. Like, see me, but don't see me. But look over here. And yeah, that was a little confusing for me. So, yeah.
But you're right. She 1,000,000% looked the part. I mean,
she looked the part, but that was it. Let's go into some more timeline stuff here. So we're introduced to Nightcrawler, and he is rescued in a scene where they went, hey, you remember that opening scene of Wolverine in the first X-Men movie? Let's do that.
Do it exactly.
Yeah. Exactly the same.
Which is so funny because remember in the X2, X-Men United, Nightcrawler's introduction is so memorable and different.
That is an awesome introduction.
I never liked Nightcrawler as a character until I saw that movie. And all of a sudden after that, I started going back and rereading him, and I really started getting into Nightcrawler. It was such a fantastic opening. And then this one was like, okay.
Yeah. We've seen this before.
But what I want to talk about, and we can also talk about this whenever we do X2, Mystique is supposed to be his mom.
Well, not anymore. That's been retconned.
Yeah, I feel like that got changed, right?
Now she's his dad.
I'm my own grandpa, also. Like, we're all
But yes. At this point, she was his mom, right?
Yeah. Okay. That's all I wanted to talk about.
Well, you got it, Laramy. Okay, way to go.
Yeah.
That's just.
But like she didn't know or something. I don't know.
It's just weird.
It's not like they don't look alike or anything. You know?
They're just both blue.
They're both blue.
They're both blue.
They're related to beasts somehow too.
Probably in some timeline, Laramy. Yes, 100%.
Yeah. They choose what they. I mean, it's like Marvel. You know, they choose which stories they want nowadays, even in the mainstream MCU. So, I'll give that a pass. But. Yeah.
Just a lot of suspension of disbelief. There's a lot of things that got to be suspended.
What's up, dudes? I'm Gerry D of Totally Rad Christmas, the podcast that talks all things Christmas in the 80s. Toys, movies, specials, music, books, fashion, and fads.
If it was gnarly during Christmas in the 80s, he's got it covered. Wait, is there a lot of things to talk about for the 80s and Christmas?
Well, you got the movie giants like Christmas Vacation, Scrooged, and A Christmas Story. There are TV specials like Muppet Family Christmas, Claymation Christmas Celebration, and a Garfield Christmas special.
Plus classics shown every year.
You also jam out to Last Christmas, Do They Know It's Christmas, and Christmas in Hollis. But most of all, it was a time for the most bodacious, best-selling Christmas toys ever, like He-Man, G.I. Joe, Transformers...
and Cabbage Patch Kids.
Yes, them too. We cover them all, plus much more, including standard segments like Hap Happiest Memory, Gag Me with the Spoon, The Other Half of the Battle,
and Chant with the Littles.
So tune in to Totally Rad Christmas everywhere you get your podcasts. Turn the clock back and dive into those warm and fuzzy memories.
Later, dudes.
All right, so let's get into a little bit moving panels here. So I did find out that the main idea of the story was actually from X Factor number 24 in September of 1987, and that's just all that is that's when Apocalypse returns in the comics. So he was in issues 5 and 6. he slowly goes away in 6. It's such a stupid panel. Like, he just lowers down while the X-Men watch it happen. But he returned in September of 1987, and this is where he is trying to recruit the members of X Factor. And this is where we also get the reveal of the Archangel.
Right.
So this is where we get to see Angel, because what had happened in the comics is Warren Worthington, Angel, had gotten injured, very similar to what they do. I mean, they injure him in the movie as well. But in the comic, the injury's so bad, he has to have his wings amputated.
Removed, yeah.
Yeah. And it sends him into this, depression, to where he ultimately decides he is going to commit suicide. So he's, Blake, if you're not aware, he's rich.
Okay.
And he's on his private plane, and he decides he's going to crash his private plane. And we believe in the comics that that's what happened. He is replaced by actually Caliban, who you saw in the movie. He was the bald guy.
Yeah, that don't like him at all. First of all, just so I get that out there. Not a fan.
Yeah. So he is actually the replacement for him on the X Factor team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hold on, pause. What does Caliban do? What other than like sell information?
He can track mutants.
Yeah.
Like he can sense.
That's his
almost
whole
like
thing.
a human Cerebro kind of. But
Gotcha.
But within a range of.
Because I was like, I've seen the movie Powder. Like, he just can't go out during the sunlight. He just goes out at nighttime, right? That's it. Like, just tracks everyone at night.
Well, I mean, that does bring us to timeline again.
Okay.
Because let's talk about Logan, the movie Logan. Because we had Caliban in that movie too. So.
God, he wasn't he?
Yep.
I mean, I guess he's a survivor.
That was the character that Stephen Merchant played.
Yep.
Stephen Merchant played Caliban in Logan.
These movies are all over the place.
It's a mess.
All over the place.
What a mess.
But what they end up doing in this issue is they reveal that Angel is not, in fact, dead. He has just been recruited, quote unquote, by Apocalypse. And what we discover is right before the plane crashed, Apocalypse, quote unquote, rescued Angel, and then said, "I can give your wings back if you agree to serve me." And Angel agreed to it. And so he became the Archangel. What did y'all think of that transition in the movie?
Yeah, does he get metal wings in the comics?
He does.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And it shoots the darts and
he
everything.
turns blue.
And he's also blue. Yeah.
Why not?
I don't know what it is about blue. Just everybody's blue.
in my image, okay, all of you will be.
I'm blue.
Yeah. I was just like, I wasn't gonna sing it, Jared, because I do not have the voice for it. But I didn't mind the transition. Is the CGI the best? No, it's certainly not. Was still a cool little scene, I think. I liked it.
I will say I don't have the best TV in the world. It took me a minute to realize what was happening.
Like
to realize that his wings were turning into metal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would have rather they had been fully like
ripped off or
like so you can really tell that there was a transition.
Because it was so weird because his wings actually turn metal. But then it makes no sense, the like metal ribs that you see come out of his back, like what were they for? Like it's a weird transformation.
Just let it happen, man.
And then that's all that happens. Whereas again, in the comic, his look completely changes. Like he doesn't look human anymore.
Well, he does get some like cool Mike Tyson face tattooing that goes on. Like
that's right.
I don't know if you saw that or not. Okay, huge transformation going on.
That'll make you evil. I'm telling you.
It will. It really will.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what I have nothing else to add to that.
By the way, a bit of an Easter egg. Did y'all catch that when Apocalypse and Storm and arrive there, and he's up in the loft, the rafters? Did y'all catch that he is listening to "The Four Horsemen" by Metallica?
Yeah.
No, I did not. I missed that. That's awesome.
Yeah, having a dad that was big into AC/DC, Metallica, all that kind of stuff. Immediately, I was like, "Oh, okay." First time I saw it, I was like, "That's pretty cool. That's a cool little egg."
Yeah, little Easter egg there.
Gee, I wonder what's going to happen here.
Yeah. Great soundtrack to the movie. This Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics. A lot of cool music on the soundtrack, adding to the reason why it's a great movie.
Oh, so a soundtrack makes it a great movie.
It plays a huge part. I'm a big music guy in movies. They can make or break a film. Unfortunately for you all, it didn't make this one for y'all, but that's cool. That's fine. No, it had some good music, good scenes. So,
well, John Ottman did the score again. He's Bryan Singer's typical go-to composer. Yeah. His score for X2 is still one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's great, right? Okay, thank you. I didn't know first.
Yeah, no, I won't deny that a score and a soundtrack can make or break a movie, but
there was a lot that broke this one for you.
I don't think that would then go, that was a good movie because of the score.
It added to it for me, is all I'm saying. Okay. Is that it helped my opinion of the film.
All right, moving on. So the Magneto story.
Keep
the Magneto
your
story
moving
that we
on.
get.
Sorry, I had to. You said moving on, so I had to give it back. All right, sorry. Proceed.
Yeah, just remember to sleep with one eye open. All right.
When I take my hearing aids out, I can't hear anyways, so it doesn't matter.
The Magneto story, I liked it because even though it's not exactly like the comics, the story they did in this movie was essentially Magneto's origin story. Mm-hmm. Of him trying to leave a regular life, having a wife, having a daughter, and then the angry mob, getting wind that he's possibly a mutant, and then his daughter being accidentally killed. I got to tell you, I've said this on this podcast all the time. I'm all for a sympathetic villain. If that scene doesn't make you sympathetic for Magneto, I don't know what would.
The shouting, "Is this what I am?" Like up to the heavens. It's just,
man.
Yeah, it's rough. And so I was sitting there and I'm watching it, and again, rewatching it for this. The scene where the big melting pot, the cauldron's about to fall on this guy. The thought to me for a split second is, just let it happen if you're Magneto, right? Like, you love your family, you don't want to blow your cover, but it goes to show that he's got this inner mechanism that he wants to be good, I think. Like, he wants to do the right thing. And so the right thing to do is to save this person, even at the risk of showing himself, so to speak.
Yeah. And I like too. I know that he murders all of the
with
the soldiers.
Look,
with her necklace.
Kind of rightfully so. I'm not mad at it.
But I do like that when he goes back to the factory, he doesn't actually murder those guys. No. Apocalypse does.
Yep.
Right.
And I actually like that to the story because you're almost okay with him murdering the soldiers, the cops, whatever you want to call it. You're almost okay with that.
There's some,
because it's justified, quote unquote.
There's some justification you can do.
I'm not saying it's a good thing,
right?
But when he goes back to the factory, like, those are all innocent men.
Except for they sold him out. Right? Yeah, they sold him out.
Yeah,
but
but that, to me, that's not grounds.
It makes
to murder.
It makes him more redeemable.
And he's going to murder
later
all
on.
Of them.
Yeah.
So
also, how do you feel about being murdered by being dropped into cement? Are you? Is that a way to go for you? Would you be
and not instantly killed?
No,
too.
Yeah,
you
like,
see the guy's hand.
Right. Right. Yeah. You're like suffocating in dry cement.
Yeah,
or being crushed by it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a hard pass for me.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure.
0 stars.
I'd rather not. Wouldn't recommend it. I will point out that Magneto's wife in the movie does have the name Magda, which is Magneto's wife.
Yeah.
However, in the comics, that is Pietro and Wanda's mother.
Right.
So
I mean, again, they play hard and fast with what part of the lore they're going to use. Well, then that's the other thing. They call him Peter instead of Pietro. Like, why?
Yeah. Well,
why? I mean, there's no reason for it, really.
Because he doesn't use an accent like Elizabeth Olsen slowly lost each movie she was in.
So good. One of my favorite things about the Marvel movies, to be honest with you. I love that. It's so good.
Or Halle Berry as well.
Right? Just slowly fades away.
At first X-Men, and then by X2, it was gone. I don't know what happened. It just... She acclimated really fast.
So I think that just means a different Storm or a different Wanda from a different timeline, right? They just replaced them.
That's right.
Them out. Yeah,
that's right.
That's all that is.
I'm into it.
All right, I got to ask you about the Wolverine cameo.
So good.
Okay, but here's the. I'm not gonna say whether it's good or not. Here's my question.
I'm saying it.
Here's my question.
Was it shoehorned?
Was it necessary?
No, unfortunately,
no,
it
wasn't.
It wasn't. Yeah,
it wasn't.
Was in fact any of that scene from Stryker coming to get them after the mansion explodes, all the way to them escaping? Was any of that scene needed in this movie?
Well, I think they make the excuse that the mental event or whatever happened right there, and so they came to try and get the people they felt most likely caused it or were involved in it. So I think that gives you some reasoning for why he came and showed up and took them to the holding area. But no, the Wolverine scene, not necessary. Loved regardless by me, yes, for sure. So seeing Wolverine go full berserk mode, great.
And him in the Weapon X suit, although
that was
come on,
you can't hide Hugh Jackman's face.
Yeah,
so
yeah, yes, you can.
So not 100%.
It was the full thing, but it was still pretty cool.
Thing across, still awesome.
No, so I think the only thing that they get from that whole business is just that's kind of when they're like, when they kind of really gel is like, hey, we could be a team. Yeah. But was it necessary? No, you could have cut it out, and I think it would have streamlined the movie. I agree. I did like that Wolverine scene.
Yeah, it's fun.
But
it's a fun scene.
As far as like absolutely necessary to the plot, I'm probably going to say no.
They get to make like a fun little quip, like, oh, I hope we never see him again. And another one throughout the movie is like, what is it? That everybody knows the third film's the worst film. So there's a couple little like funny scenes, I think, referencing X3.
She makes the Star Wars reference.
Yeah, everybody knows the third one's the worst one. But it always weirds me out because, I don't know enough about the comics. Don't Wolverine and Jean become like
that was my next point.
That was creepy.
She's super young.
In this
movie. And for him, he's already 300 years old or whatever.
But even Hugh Jackman was
already like 40 or 50.
Almost 10 years older than he was in the first movie.
He was a full grown man, as they say.
It was creepy.
It was weird.
Creepy.
That was the only thing that really threw me.
Yeah, because they do linger for a minute when she's quote-unquote healing his memory.
I was hoping my wife didn't walk in during that. I was like, it's not what it looks like, okay?
That's a little awkward. Just a little awkward. Okay, so I will throw in other little Easter egg. The Blob in the beginning that's defeated by Angel. Yep. We do get the Blob, which again, timeline.
right.
X-Men Origins.
Wolverine. Supposed to be the army
with
with Wolverine from Origins, right.
Yeah. How does that? And because that's my other thing is that when they release Logan and he leaves, I'm sitting there going, where's he going? Because
this
doesn't make any sense.
He's just going, man.
Just going.
He's just leaving.
Okay. Of course, we get the Stan Lee cameo that he got to do with his love Joan,
looking up to the sky.
Yep. And I brought this up, and we did a one shot of the best Stan Lee cameo, and I brought this up. He has stated that is one of his favorite cameos because he got to do it with his wife.
Yeah,
very, very
cool.
Jerry, I'm sure you picked up on the other little Easter egg when Charles mentions that Moira has a son.
Yes, Proteus. Yeah,
Proteus.
Yes, that would see. Proteus is another one of those villains that no one really remembers, but he has super cool powers, like reality warping powers, essentially. And it takes he has a weakness to metal, so it takes Colossus having to step in and put him down, which is kind of rough at that time. But I mean, his powers were so great that he actually caused Wolverine to freak out. And so Cyclops had to pick a fight with him.
One of the only villains Wolverine is actually afraid of.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, the only way they were able to get over his fear was Cyclops had to push him, pick a fight with him so that he would eventually snap out of it. And I mean, that's crazy. Wolverine is everybody knows Wolverine's not afraid of anything.
Yeah.
But no. So Proteus would have been a cool movie, especially, he's still a kid, but he doesn't really know what's going on. He's he's oh man, he's so powerful, but like how do you discipline someone or teach someone like that? I mean, so I think that would have been really great, but also that might have been too much for mainstream comic audiences.
So I don't know if this is like maybe have y'all seen Looper? Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Bruce Willis, obviously.
It's a Bruce Willis movie,
right?
Of course
Obviously,
I've seen it.
But like the kid, that sounds a lot like the kid in Looper, like this child with these unfettered powers and not being able to control them. So I don't know if that they pulled from that to make that movie at all, but that sounds almost exactly like.
I mean, it could be. It was also like in
this Proteus character,
the Twilight Zone, that 80s version.
Okay.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stories about a kid with uncontrollable powers, kind of like that. I mean, and then comics they've done a lot. I mean, talking about Apocalypse, they eventually brought Apocalypse back as a kid.
Oh yeah, Kid Apocalypse, yeah.
So
just a miniature Apocalypse, not a full blown one, just a small.
Yeah. Before I talk about the ending, which I want to get into as well, let's talk about the comics.
Okay.
Age of Apocalypse, probably the biggest Apocalypse storyline. I have not read the entire thing.
It's good.
So for those, just to kind of give an idea and to let Blake in on what happens.
Let me in.
So Legion, who is Charles Xavier's son, travels back in time and actually kills Xavier.
Accidentally. He was going back in time.
I was like, for what reason?
Accidentally.
He was going back to kill Magneto because he believed that Magneto was the reason why Professor X's dream of mutant-human coexistence didn't happen. So he goes back in time to kill Magneto and accidentally kills.
So it's not like an Oedipus Rex thing. It's just
no.
accident. Okay, all right, okay.
No, he actually, he's on good terms with his
dad. Well intentioned. But...
Okay, that's fine. I'm cool.
But like I said, I'm trying to make because this was like
it was a huge
this
event.
Was a huge event
96,
in Marvel.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening is it creates an alternate universe.
Of course, why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
In which because Xavier never existed, Apocalypse was able to win and take control of the world.
It's not good.
Well, really, America. Like,
it's mostly America. Yeah.
Is that like he was like, you know what, the world? No, America. Good.
America.
Because part of the story is the X-Men are trying to help a group of humans get to Europe. Like that's actually a part of the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
To
like evade Apocalypse's reign, I guess they're trying to get them.
Pretty much prevent them from being killed
like
by
an underground railroad kind of thing.
He's like, guys, they have barbecue here. We don't need to take over anywhere else. We're good. America is it.
But Magneto ends up leading the X-Men in that universe.
Okay.
Yeah. Magneto's the leader of the X-Men. Gambit has his own little group. That's they work with the X-Men, but they're a separate group. Scott and Alex are actually like the number 2 and number 3 to Apocalypse.
Oh,
like they're bad guys.
Okay.
Yeah. Wolverine and Jean are a couple.
Yeah, still weird. I don't like that at all. All right. So the question is, how did and as y'all read this, or Gerry, maybe as it was happening, you were reading it. What was the overarching feeling of the readers that this was going on? That Scott Summers is in line with Apocalypse and Charles Xavier's been killed. Was this like a Death of Superman reaction kind of thing?
No, nothing so big. I mean, the X titles were like super
big.
Hot at that time, and it's in the early to mid 90s. So, I mean, they were like the best selling comics every year.
Okay.
I remember, now I can't speak for everyone, but I remember it was just kind of cool to see alternate versions of these characters.
Sure.
It's like, whoa, and then this guy's over here now, and Beast is like a crazy mad scientist. And I mean, it's like all sorts of, like, I never would have figured Sabretooth was basically the Wolverine character of the X-Men. He was on the X-Men. It's it was kind of cool. I wanted to know what else was happening, and all the X titles, their names changed as well. So
so essentially they did. You talk about the Death of Superman. Essentially, they did something similar. They put a stop to all the X-Men titles.
Oh wow!
And then they started releasing new titles,
like Astonishing X-Men instead of Uncanny X-Men. Things like that.
Yeah. And then it was Gambit and the Externals was his group, and so they had their own comic. So that was what they did, was they released a few issues of these alternate titles until they finally went back. But my question is, not to spend a lot of time, because this is a huge epic event. What do you think? Because with Days of Future Past already kind of doing this alternate reality, do you think they should have carried that in and maybe have done something like that with Apocalypse? Do you think they could have fixed the timeline stuff a little bit if they had
I don't think
that?
anything could fix that timeline stuff. No. I would love to have seen it in live action. I really, really would have. But I don't think they should have done it so close to Days of Future Past. Like, I think it was wise not to bring that in. It would have confused people even more, personally.
I agree. Do you think they missed out on not putting Gambit in this movie? Because I know there was originally talk.
I know he was planned on being it, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, again, if he was absolutely necessary, but I would have liked to have seen Gambit as well. I know he's my brother's favorite character, and he is a cool character. I mean, we saw him. We saw, was it Tyler Kitsch, right? Taylor Kitsch?
Yeah. Taylor Kitsch.
Taylor Kitsch, yeah. We saw him play it, and he was okay.
Well, we saw him play.
Did we, though? He was in the movie. Did we see him play Gambit?
We saw him play cards. And, like, he had a staff.
We saw him play a character named Gambit.
Yeah, correct.
That's right. So I would have loved to have seen Gambit, but I'm all about, like, I want to see my favorites in movies, you know, like with the Avengers, you know, I want to see, like, even Dr. Druid, who's like a terrible, you know, D-list Avenger. I would have liked to have seen him in the movies, things like that. Swordsman, which we kind of got a little bit in Hawkeye.
Well, we got him in Hawkeye.
Yeah, but I would have liked to have seen him as an actual Avenger, you know, stuff like that. So I wouldn't mind seeing Gambit. I think that would have been, especially because of how popular he was, I think it would have been a great addition. But I don't think we missed anything without having him.
All right, so that brings me to the ending of this movie. So Age of Apocalypse actually happens after the Phoenix Saga. But this movie, their version of the Phoenix Saga, is what kicks off at the end of this movie. What are your thoughts on her being the Phoenix? Because this movie implies, very similar to the way that the original X-Men trilogy did, that the Phoenix was always a part of Jean, that it is just her power at its full, instead of being this alien entity, which they will then backtrack and go to in the next movie.
Right.
But what are your thoughts in this movie of Charles revealing that it is actually just the true Jean Grey?
I go back and forth because I get it. Without having to introduce aliens in your world, it makes sense. But also, I think it was even too early to bring out Phoenix at this point.
I 100% agree.
You know,
on that.
Even in the next movie, I still think it was way too early. We only knew Sophie Turner for like one movie, you know, and not a full movie at that. You know, she's not like the main character of the movie. So it's like, they should have waited a couple of movies, and I think it would have been a compelling story for her. I think she could have maybe even died at the end of that, the way they originally planned for Jean to die. You know, something that would have capped her off, and, you know, because actors don't want to be stuck with their roles forever. But it was way too early, and even hinting at like this potential. And yes, Jean's an Omega level telepath and telekinetic, but also you can be Omega level without having to crazy Phoenix alter ego thing be part of you. I don't know. It just seemed like a waste.
I don't know how much you know about the Phoenix story, Blake, but what were your thoughts?
So I know just what I know from the X-Men animated series during the 90s, like
which is one of the best adaptations of that story.
Seeing her obviously die and then rise again as the Phoenix through alien possession, whatever you want to call it. I am kind of like Gerry. There is a lot going on in the X-Men universe. Introducing full-blown aliens may be a bridge too far if it's not already too far. So I get the, hey, come and help Charles out and release your powers. As a casual fan, it worked. I was good with it. I didn't have any issues. I can understand someone who is more familiar with the lore being a little miffed at the fact that we're doing this so soon. So I've got no issue with the issue. Just as a casual fan, someone who enjoyed the movie,
that makes sense.
It worked for me.
All right. So my next question is, did you get Apocalypse actually recognized the Phoenix?
Yeah, so like he says the prophecy has been fulfilled or whatever, or whatever. He like sees, it's almost like he saw this coming already, knew this was going to happen, and he had like done this before, maybe, is how I interpreted it.
Yeah,
his last line is some kind of something. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so that's my question, is because it is that line, and when you said the line you said, I was like, that's not right.
Yeah, it's not. I know.
Forgotten.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what he says.
Forgotten the line. But yeah, he says something like, "Now everything is clear."
Yeah, something like that.
I think it was the line.
All has been clear, or all is clear. Something. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So that was my question: were they setting up that maybe it is actually another entity, and he had maybe encountered it at some time before? So, what did you think about them actually essentially destroying Apocalypse?
I'm fine with it, because if they want, they can bring him back. I mean, it's comics, you can always bring someone back. Yeah. So I don't mind in some of these when villains are killed off or, depowered or something, because I know that if they really want to, they'll find another way to bring him back. So I was fine with it, honestly. I know Apocalypse has been killed before, but he always comes back, so it's all good.
Yeah, this was just a very, and I agree with you. I mean, you can always bring him back, but this, to me, it just felt like a very final death.
Because, final, yeah.
There's like he gets just like skin melted off, disintegrated.
Disintegrates.
All is revealed. By the way, is the line that he utters.
Okay, all is revealed.
All is revealed at the end. It seems like he's gone for good. We're kind of capping this off. I want to bring up one issue I did have, and it's a very small one. So Mystique and Quicksilver go to Magneto as he's hoisting all the metal out of the earth, and Quicksilver's trying to break into this magnetic field as though that was the only way to get his attention, it seemed. And then Mystique is just like, "Hey, Eric, psst, hey, over here." And he turns and looks. I was very frustrated by that. I was like, why are we trying to get in if you can just talk to him through there? It would have been a lot quicker just to holler at him through there. So that was when we could have sped that up a little bit. Just a small thing.
Yeah. It's funny.
I found it weird that, so we get Apocalypse, enhancing the powers of Storm and Angel.
Turning her hair white.
And Psylocke, which the only one that made sense on was Angel, because it seemed like Psylocke and Storm could do what they were already doing. Yeah. Right. And then the same thing with Magneto. Like he doesn't so much enhance Magneto's powers, it seems, as he does just teach Magneto. Yeah.
He's like,
hypes
him up.
If you never knew this, there's metal in the earth.
I put it there.
Which is another crazy thing about Magneto. So like the dude has control over parts of the electromagnetic spectrum, right? So it's like, electricity and magnetism are related. Yeah. So like in Days of Future Past, where he like winds the metal through the little slits of metal through the Sentinel, he didn't have to do that. He could have just created a magnetic field and controlled the electrons, the electricity in it, and he could have controlled the Sentinel. And so it always makes me laugh, and this is where I have to, because I'm a physics major, so it always makes me laugh at how they kind of don't utilize their powers to the fullest potential. Like
he really is Charles Xavier, Laramy. Like he is legit. Charles Xavier.
It's like Magneto, man. I mean, come on, you don't need to rip metal from the earth. You can just alter the magnetic field of the earth. So, like, come on, guy, just get more creative with your powers.
Work smarter, not harder here.
Exactly.
I just would have liked when the cops show up and have his daughter, and he noticed, y'all aren't wearing your badges. Yeah, we don't have any metal on us. My mind immediately goes to, y'all don't have zippers on your pants?
Yeah, no belt buckle, nothing. Buttons.
Stretchy pants, that's all.
Yeah. None of none of you have ever had any type of major surgery.
So that was my thing. Like, as he's ripping metal from the earth, if someone has metal, does their whole body get lifted, or are you just like ripping a plate out of your arm as he's pulling all this metal everywhere? That was terrifying to me.
And then finally, we've got our end credit scene where we see these strange people come into the facility. They're cleaning up. I love their vacuuming up the bullet shells.
How else would you clean up bullet shells? They're shot back, right?
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Very loud. Very loud.
And then they take a vial of blood labeled Weapon X. They put it into a briefcase next to a green vial and a yellow vial, because we've got colorful blood in this movie, apparently.
No blue blood?
And then
everybody's blue.
Nope. You just got blue skin. No blue blood.
Oh, okay.
And then, of course, the lid closes and it says Essex Corporation, which slightly a callback, but we're assuming maybe this is a setup for the sequel that never happened.
It doesn't occur.
Well, and it's kind of what alluded to in the New Mutants as well.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah, yes.
But still, it's so subtle that if you don't know, I mean, you're going to completely miss it.
That's going to be my question to you, Blake.
I had to go research. The first time I saw it, I was like, what is this? I have no idea what's going on. Is this like
Nathaniel Essex?
Is this like Exxon's sister company? They're like, doing. Right. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that I do like that that's the setup, because Mr. Sinister was essentially created by Apocalypse.
Right.
In the comics. So I think that if they had gone that route, I think that could have been a very interesting story, because Essex Corporation doesn't necessarily mean Mr. Sinister. It just means Nathaniel Essex. And if they had done something where Apocalypse does return from the dead, and then he turns Nathaniel Essex into Mr. Sinister, I think that could have been an interesting story. I will say, now, after what we got with Dark Phoenix, I would have taken anything. But
yes. Is this movie better than Dark Phoenix? Oh, infinitely.
That's all I needed, Jerry. That's all I needed. Thank you. All right.
But,
done.
All right. Well, it may be clear, but let's do it officially. What's our final decisions? Bag it, stack it, or trade it? Blake, you know what? I will go ahead and just let you try to see if you can sway one of us.
So, as a casual watcher, going into the movie and knowing that I'm not going to know everything, I'm not going to understand all the references, and just wanting it to be entertaining. Confusing? Sure. Was it entertaining, though? Some really fun scenes, some cool, quippy moments. Again, I enjoyed the music, and the score for the film was great, in my opinion. And so I would stack it. I'm not going to bag it. Yeah, it's not cinema, as Martin Scorsese would say, but it's still an enjoyable movie. It comes after a very enjoyable movie before it, Days of Future Past. So I stacking it, I'm going to hold on to it. I understand if you don't, but that is your right to be wrong, and you can do that if you choose. So there you go, gentlemen.
I mean, I'm a completist, so I gotta own the whole collection. So I mean, I can't trade it. I can't sell it or get rid of it in any way. So I gotta
say it, Jerry.
I gotta stack it.
There it is, Jerry.
But I mean, now having said that, it's definitely not my favorite.
That's fine.
To me, it's just very mediocre and forgettable.
Yeah. So I'm with you, Jerry. I have to own the complete set, but that doesn't mean I have to like it.
That's true. That's a good point. That's a good point.
I mean, yeah.
That's a good point.
That doesn't mean I have to like it.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So, no, this is 100% a trade it for me.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, the rare trade it for me. As far as I'm concerned, there's X-Men First Class, there's Days of Future Past, and then they stopped making X-Men movies after that.
Well, I do like X2. That's a good one.
Well, but I'm talking about
for the new class. Yeah. I gotcha.
This new group. They stopped making them.
Yeah, Dark Phoenix, New Mutants. I will say not great, not great at all.
Yeah. I mean, Bryan Singer, which we didn't talk about
Oh,
Bryan Singer
yeah.
for good reason.
Are we though?
But
Do we need to?
But yeah, they brought Bryan Singer back after First Class because Matthew Vaughn had First Class, and then you brought Bryan Singer back for Days of Future Past, and he nailed Days of Future Past. Then this movie, part of me, you can tell, I will say this, you can tell that this movie had a Marvel influence. That this was Marvel starting to step in because, you know, the MCU's getting going, and even though X-Men is Fox, I mean, it does have the Marvel logo, you know, the page flip logo at the beginning. This felt more like a Marvel movie than it had any of the Fox movies, X-Men movies before it.
I could see that. Yeah.
And it is a very, as Blake's saying, yes, it's a fun movie that it is a comic book movie. Yeah. I mean, you're essentially watching, you know, because the other X-Men movies to me felt like sci-fi movies.
Sure.
Well, I think you do have to lay that right at the feet of Bryan Singer, who, I mean, I don't know how accurate it is, but legend says that, you know, he wouldn't even let his cast members read X-Men comics for those movies. So,
wow.
I mean, you're right. It feels more like, well, not Blade Runner, but it definitely feels more sci-fi than.
Yeah, the other X-Men movies felt more sci-fi. This one felt like a comic book movie. Even when we are, you know, and essentially this movie is the X-Men origin, the origin of the X-Men.
Right.
And we get the team standing there at the end, very awkwardly standing inside of the room.
Yeah, that is a weird finish to the movie.
And why they're spaced out as far as they are from each other also didn't make a lot of sense.
Forget everything you know about everything.
I'd like to imagine, you know, Charles just wheeling himself in his chair, like, okay, you stand right there. Go in a few paces. All right, now you stand right there.
Can he not just telepathically like have them move? He's like, just move, just scoot over. This is not symmetrical. Scoot.
Guys, be cool. Just be cool.
Look awesome.
And then you know, and then we get their reveal in their costumes, which are a lot more superhero looking than the suits from the original trilogy. And then I will say this, the god awful visor on Cyclops.
It's
agreed.
Bad.
Agreed.
It's not great.
That was horrible.
It's not great.
So I mean, watch it. But then again, I forget this movie. I remember the Quicksilver saving everybody from the mansion when it explodes. I don't remember anything else about this movie.
Yeah.
Tough stuff.
All right. Well, Blake may have gotten Gerry a little over onto his side.
2 out of 3, Laramy. That's the majority rules here on Moving Panels.
No,
this is going to be a rare trade.
No takebacks, Gerry. Don't say anything else. You're done.
No. My answer is official.
All right. Okay.
But again, that's because
That's fine. You don't have to watch
basing it off my personality that I have to own it.
Okay, that's fine. I'm down with that.
Because it's a superhero movie, and I hate that about myself sometimes.
You want to see better apocalypse stuff? Watch the animated series.
Yeah. Oh man, he's a killer in that.
Yeah. All right, we'll go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on this one. This one was fun. Yeah. I will admit,
a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
I enjoyed this hour better than any of the 2.5 hours of that movie. So.
You had to do it, didn't you, Laramy? Just had one last jab in there.
Yeah.
All right, thanks everybody for listening. Rate and review the show. And as always, just thanks for just going through this journey with us as we just berate some of these movies, but there's always the ones we love as well. And it's always in good fun. But thanks everybody for today for Moving Panels. I'm Laramy Wells, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.